Big news for the white race this morning. According to new census data, white people are officially finished as the majority race in America. Until 1965, white people made up about 85% of the U.S. population. Then a new mass migration policy, along with a collapse in native-born American birth rates, combined to drop that percentage down to the 60 or so percent that it is today. And now, according to a new analysis, Gen Z will officially be the last majority white American generation, as the youngest generation, Gen Alpha, has already seen white people replaced as the majority population. Now, if you are white, you cannot mention this fact. If you were to observe this demographic model, especially if you did so with any even slight hint of reservation, you would, of course, be a racist conspiracy theorist. But other people, such as the liberal media, they are permitted to observe it, especially if they celebrate it. So here we have it. I'm not all that worried. The Sicilians have always been a racially ambiguous people. I'm sure that my swarthy skin will fare just fine in America's beige future. I can easily pass for Hispanic. When I hold my sitar, I've been mistaken for Indian. In particularly hot summers, I look downright North African, so I'm not losing sleep. But given my slightly duskier complexion, is it all right if I suggest, even meekly, that perhaps there's something just a little bit sad about a nation's founding stock passing away? If I suggest that maybe white people aren't intrinsically evil and deserving of demographic doom? Is that the sort of thing that's going to get me canceled? It wouldn't get me canceled if we were discussing pretty much any other country on earth, certainly any country outside the West. If, let's say over the course of 60 years, Japan opened its borders and the Japanese became a minority in Japan, wouldn't lots of people wonder at that? Maybe even worry a little bit? If the Nigerians suddenly became a minority in Nigeria after an influx of Icelandic immigrants, wouldn't people... I'm not saying it would be a bad thing, okay? Wouldn't it be a cause for concern for a lot of people, for at least the Nigerians who might fear that such a massive influx of newcomers might displace or even erase their customs and their way of life? Are we allowed to raise any of those questions? Or are we just supposed to deny that any of those concerns are even a possibility until they become an inevitability to celebrate? I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. This episode is brought to you by Good Ranchers. Get great meat at a secure price and $30 off your order with my code Knowles. Go to goodranchers.com. Use my code Knowles today. I had Good Rancher steak 2 nights ago, and it was just so delicious. It was so good. I can't even express it in words. There is some breaking news about porn, which is that Pornhub is now going dark in Arkansas because it is so insistent on not making sure that little kids look at their stuff. We'll get to that story in just a second. First, though, I want to stay on the topic of getting canceled for a second, because Neo, a rapper, Neyo, I think it's Neo, he said a thing, got canceled, apologized, unapologized. So now we're in a good spot where I'm very pro-Neo again. I lost track somewhere in the Neo path along the way. But here's what Neo said that got him canceled. Speaking of reasoned arguments, speaking of getting canceled, a Seattle Times editorial board member has been fired for defending Hitler. Can you imagine this guy defended Hitler? It's especially weird that he defended Hitler because his family was targeted by Nazi Germany. But he defended Hitler, according to the libs, and so he was fired for that. What did he actually do? Well, there's a statue in Seattle of Vladimir Lenin, one of the worst men in modern history. And this Seattle Times editorial board member pointed out that Lenin was sort of a bad fellow too. And you're not allowed to do that in our modern culture. We'll get to why in just a second. First, though, when you see things falling around you, probably that is a good encouragement to pray, which is why you got to check out Hallow. Right now, go to hallow.com/Knowles. It is clear that the libs are giving up their morals and any common sense. There's no better time to build a daily habit of prayer and meditation. Building a habit of prayer can help you cultivate an attitude of gratitude. Focusing on what you are thankful for can increase positive emotions and improve overall well-being. Hallow is the #1 Christian prayer app in the United States. It's helped many maintain a daily prayer routine, and it can help you too. Download the app for free at hallow.com/Knowles. You can set prayer reminders and track your progress along the way. Not sure where to start? Check out Father Mike Schmitz's Bible in a Year, available on the Hallow app for brief daily readings and reflections, or pray alongside Mark Wahlberg, Jim Caviezel, and even some world-class athletes. With Hallow, you can customize a personal prayer plan that works for you. Listen wherever you are with downloadable offline sessions. Using Hallow to connect with others who share your beliefs and values can provide a sense of belonging, support, and foster a sense of community. Also, you have an obligation to your God to pray regularly. Don't forget, that helps you, but you have an obligation, okay? So make sure you go check it out right now. Hallow. Go to hallow.com/Knowles. Get an exclusive 3 months free. That's 3 months absolutely free at hallow.com/Knowles. There's this Lenin statue in Seattle. I didn't realize there's a statue of Lenin. Not John Lennon, that would be bad enough, but Vladimir Lenin in Seattle, American City, this big, giant Russian commie statue. And there's this journalist who is a Seattle Times editorial board member, and he said, look, Hitler's very bad. We view Hitler as the worst guy ever, but Lenin was pretty bad too. There were other bad people also. And he pointed out, quote, in fact, while Hitler has become the great symbol of evil in history books, he too was less evil than Lenin because Hitler only targeted people he personally believed were harmful to society, whereas Lenin targeted even those he himself didn't believe were harmful in any way. That's a tweet that Volodsko, this David Joseph Volodsko, this editorial board member, sent out. Then he deleted it. You're not allowed to, you cannot say that anyone was more evil or even as evil or even anywhere near as evil as Hitler. Even if that person is, even if you're saying that Hitler was evil, and even if you're saying that there are multiple other evil people, you're not allowed to do that. So he deletes this tweet. Then he writes out, he tries to correct it. He says, Hitler was more evil than Lenin if we're looking at what they did to people, and that's a pretty important metric for assessing evil. So now he's just spinning. I don't even know what he's trying to say. And he's fired now, and he'll be canceled for that. But why? Why? Lenin certainly led to the death of more people than Hitler did. Lenin's ideology was certainly at least as evil as Hitler's ideology. Lenin, especially taken in the context of his successor, Stalin, not only killed as many, if not more people, but did so in very similar ways at basically the same time. Why is it that Hitler is the only evil person in history, and other evil men like Lenin and Stalin, you're not even allowed to mention their evil actions? Well, there's a simple enough answer, which is that Lenin, through his successor Stalin, won World War II, and Hitler lost World War II. That's why. Because we had a pact with the Russians. The Russians initially had a pact with Hitler. That was back when the Russians were very bad people. But then the Russians made a pact with us, and then they became really good people. And Russia won, so Russia's the good guy. Uncle Joe Stalin, he's a good guy. Now, had it turned out differently, you'd have a very different history. Had it turned out differently, you would hear a total downplay. Let's say the Axis won World War II. You would have a total downplaying of the Holocaust and all the other horrors of World War II. And instead, what you would have is a major focus on the Holodomor. You would have a major focus on Stalin's genocide in Ukraine, which killed, historians previously had estimated, between 7 and 10 million people. Some have revised that number down to 5 and 6 million people. But still, whatever we're talking about, a lot of people, very, very serious amount of bloodshed. That would be the big focus. And you'd hear all sorts of criticisms of America, had we lost the war, all sorts of criticisms of Great Britain, and a downplaying of the atrocities of Nazi Germany. That's just the way it works. It gets back to this old line from Norm Macdonald, which is, he said, I'm reading in this history book here, this is an amazing fact about history, the good guys have won every single war ever. And people shouldn't misinterpret his joke, because the joke is not that the good guys get defeated. The joke is about how the victors write their own history, and what they do is they downplay all of their own atrocities. So you actually can't. I mean, maybe this guy just fell for some political naivete here, this Seattle Times editorial board member. But Lenin and Stalin won. And so we're in the political order where the victors can't really be criticized all that much. At the time, I mean, you had, goodness gracious, you had the American press carrying water for these awful communists. But that's the way it works. You're only allowed to point out the atrocities of the losers. And if you think that you can take some objective position, say, no, Hitler, very, very bad, Lenin, very, very bad, Stalin, very, very bad. No, that's not the way it works. That's not the political order that we're living in. The political order is structured by the victors, and this Seattle Times editorial board member learned it the hard way. Now, speaking of history, Barack Obama might be a little bit light in the loafers. This is breaking news, and it's not from some tabloid, and it's not from some far-right kook. It's from David Garrow, who is a very, very serious biographer. He is a biographer of Barack Obama. There have been a number of biographies written of Obama that are cheap kind of hit jobs. That's not what this guy does. This guy's a Pulitzer Prize-winning historian and biographer. He won the Pulitzer all the way back in 1987. He is not considered a far-right conservative by any means. And David Garrow is now working on what I suppose will be the sort of authoritative biography of Obama. And he has discovered that Obama wrote letters to a girlfriend when he was at Occidental College, which is the college he went to before he transferred to Columbia. And he apparently expressed his desire to do all sorts of strange things with men. According to Garrow, with Alex McNear, who is Obama's girlfriend, I think she wanted to have her role known. So when Alex showed me the letters from Barack, she redacted one paragraph in one of them and just said, it's about homosexuality. Why did Garrow start pushing? Why is this coming out now? I don't think it's coming out now because it's an attack on Obama. I mean, I think this woman probably still likes Obama, but now we're past the Obama presidency. He's not going to lose an election or anything, and they just want the story to come out. And what Garrow realized is something that I realized when I was reading Barack Obama's first memoir. He wrote a couple. And it's something that you may have noticed too when you read Dreams from My Father, which is that it's a work of fiction. And Obama even admitted it was a work of fiction. He'd write about a girlfriend in Dreams from My Father, and the girl never existed. And he would admit she never existed. And when he got caught on this issue, this lie, he said, well, she's a composite. She's a composite character of different women I'd met in my life. Composite characters, so you're telling me your memoir is a work of fiction. And we knew that because so much of Barack Obama's actual biography did not line up with reality. I think this is one of the things that fueled the birther idea that he wasn't really born in Hawaii or something. That wasn't just some crazy, kooky idea that a bunch of mean, nasty people thought up out of nowhere. It's because Barack Obama had lied about so much of his biography. The story kept changing. One of his publishers actually wrote on the book jacket of one of his books that he was born in Kenya. But even, let's say that was just an accident. So much of his biography in his own pen, in his own writing, was fiction. And so now this biographer says, okay, Barack Obama, a little bit, a big musical theater fan, let's say, what does this mean for him? I have a little bit of a different take than a lot of the conservatives do. But first, when you want to look good, you don't want to just rewrite your memoirs and lie about your past. If you want to look good, you got to just use Genucel. Right now, go to Genucel.com/Knowles. That dark spot on your face, is it still bothering you? What about all those sunspots all over your body? Now you can watch them disappear safely and quickly in 3 quick minutes. Genucel's dark spot luxury system does exactly what it sounds like. By using their world-famous microdermabrasion before the dark spot corrector, you will see the dark spots disappear before your very eyes, instantly, smoothly, and luxuriously. You'll be amazed at how quick you'll see results, or 100% of your money back guaranteed. Go to Genucel.com/Knowles right now to order the new dark spot treatment system today. Say goodbye to those pesky dark spots tomorrow. That is Genucel.com/Knowles, Knowles. Right now, save over 70% off Genucel's most popular package. That includes this dark spot system. I love Genucel. I especially love the founder, who's a Coptic Christian from Egypt, who fled Egypt for the American dream and has a great company with a great product. Go to Genucel.com/Knowles. It's here, folks. Enjoy an all-new episode of my beloved and wildly controversial interview game show, Yes or No. In this latest episode, I'm joined by the mother of my godchild and Daily Wire's resident firebrand, the one and only lovely Candace Owens. Candace brought her unapologetic hot takes to the table to make this a very exciting episode you don't want to miss. Check out this clip. Men who don't work out are like women who cry on TikTok after their pet bunny dies. It's disordered, weak, and hard to look at.
That's just funny.
Don't forget, you can bring the show home. Yes or No, the game is back in stock. It always sells out, and it sells out fast. So if you want it, I'd order it right now. Go to dailywire.com/shop to get yours with 200 cards and the ability to play up to 9 people at once. It is easy to see why this is the best-selling and most important game at Daily Wire. I think it's the #1 merch that we're selling. Yes or No is hands down the best way to add some excitement to your parties, challenge your friends and family's knowledge, and delve into the most thought-provoking topics of our time. dailywire.com/shop. Order Yes or No today. I have a hot take on this revelation from Obama's biographer that he had homosexual fantasies and wrote about them to his girlfriend. That's my hot take. My hot take is, the main conservative hot take I'm seeing is, see, he's Fanuc, he's lighting the loafers. And I think, I don't know, maybe. He obviously had these fantasies and wrote about them to his girlfriend. And then what? People are saying, see, this proves it, or he's a hypocrite, or I don't know. What's the guy supposed to do? I'm just viewing this from the perspective of a social conservative who, when asked about this issue, people will write in, or they'll show up, they'll say, look, I have a same-sex attraction. What am I supposed to do? And the liberal culture says, well, you should just embrace it, put on some leather, go to Greenwich Village, go to a bathhouse somewhere, live your best life, baby, go to a pride monkeypox party or something. That's going to be the way to flourishing. And the social conservatives have said, well, no, you should just suppress or sublimate that desire and not indulge it. And this is always a little bit of a hard line because you think, well, easy for you to say. I mean, everybody has certain disordered desires and affections, but that one's got to be pretty hard, right? I think it's very easy for us, especially those of us who are socially conservative, to say, hey, look, we don't have to deal with this issue, so yeah, sorry. We like girls, so we can, have a full expression of our sexual desires, and you can't do that, so yeah, tough, suck it up, Okay, it's very easy to. It's a very hard saying, I think, for people who have to deal with this. So I think, I don't know, what do we want the guy to do? He had these desires. He didn't, I don't know, maybe he indulged in them, but it seems like he didn't. And then he got married and had kids and lived a basically normal life. And he said, even if he had these desires, he said, no, I'd rather have a family. Maybe he just said, I'd rather have a successful political career, or maybe I'd have this, that, or the other thing. Isn't that what we want people to do? I just think if social conservatives pounce on these guys and kind of mock them, and then we're not giving anyone an out. So much of this modern culture, I think, the modern liberal culture that says indulge all of your appetites, it preys on society not giving people an off-ramp, not giving people an alternative. If someone has a or something like that, what are they supposed to do? I think this is why I think social conservatives should speak compassionately about them. And if Barack Obama is expressing some shame or some desire to cover this up, according to David Garrow, he's not being given access to a number of Barack Obama's personal papers, probably for this reason. I think, I don't know, good on him. Good on him for feeling some compunction about this and not wanting this fact to come out. All about it. All about it, man. And that's the only nice thing I'll say about Barack Obama ever. Speaking of weird sex stuff, Jill Biden has met with some... Speaking of weird sex stuff, there's a lot today. This is my giving Media Matters lots of clips for the week kind of day. We're opening on race, then we're getting to Hitler, then we're getting to the weird sex stuff. So this is a smorgasbord. Maybe I'll take it easy the rest of the week. But there is some really good news coming out of Arkansas. Arkansas right now has passed a law saying that if you want to peddle smut and pornography in the state, you got to make sure that you're not peddling it directly to children. Seems reasonable enough. I think probably you could have gotten to that end by just enforcing obscenity laws that are already on the books, but because we've got squishy liberal judges in recent decades, Arkansas says, okay, we want to be very clear, especially with the technological change of the internet, we're going to be very clear, you can't target smut directly to children. There's got to be about one step in between the kids and the porn. And Pornhub said, okay, we're not doing business in Arkansas anymore. Pornhub said that in Arkansas. It said that in multiple other states now, as other states have pushed for even the most basic regulations of pornography. The kind of regulation that used to exist at newsstands. If someone went in and wanted to buy a Playboy, the Playboy would be covered in a special material so that you couldn't just see all the stuff on the cover right away, and you'd have to ask. It was behind the counter. You'd have to be kind of embarrassed and ask. Basic stuff so that kids couldn't get at it. At a Playboy. What's on the internet is a lot worse than what was in Playboy and Penthouse decades ago. Pornhub says, no thanks. If I can't peddle this directly to children, I'm just going to stop doing business in the whole state. That tells you everything that you need to know about the pornography industry. The whole pornography industry is about children. It's not just a little bit of it, it's the whole thing. We focus on these particularly sensationalist and hideous examples, the sort of thing that Sound of Freedom is based on, child exploitation, child pornography. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. The whole industry is based on kids because the whole industry is based on hooking kids when they're very young. The median age of exposure to porn is something like 11 years old now, might even be younger at this point. That might be an outdated statistic. So you hook them when they're very young, and then you melt their brains, and you get these kids whose brains are very spongy, you get them addicted to pornography, and then they can never break it. That's why Pornhub won't risk this. The reason that Pornhub is giving as to why they won't risk this is they're saying, well, our users value privacy, so they're not going to want to submit a photo of an ID to prove that they are over 18, because then we're going to know who they are and what they're looking at. I don't think that's the slam dunk argument that Pornhub thinks it is. Why are people reticent to reveal their identities when they're looking at pornography? Because it's filthy and shameful and degrading and makes people look like perverts. And so they don't want to admit. When they can look at it in anonymity, or supposed anonymity, someone's always watching, buddy, but when they can at least fool themselves into thinking that they're anonymous and nobody's watching, then they'll watch it. But the moment that they have to acknowledge it, they're going to stop it. So there's those two reasons. But don't downplay the targeting of kids. If you ever complained about tobacco companies, cigarette companies targeting kids with advertising in the 90s, which every liberal did, then I'd sure like to hear you speak up about pornography, because big porn makes the big tobacco companies look like child's play, look like the amateur league in the way that they target children with their smut. So what are we going to do about it? What would I do if I were king of Arkansas? I don't know, Arkansas is doing a great job. You know, Sarah Sanders, I love her. But what would I do if I were the governor of a state right now? How would you enforce? Well, I would pass this kind of a law. And how would I then try to enforce it or put it into practice? I guess I would just enforce obscenity laws. I wouldn't even necessarily need to pass new laws. I would just enforce the obscenity laws already on the books, and I'd go after these guys. They provide absolutely no benefit to society. They provide a lot of harms to society. They screw up a lot of people's lives. And so I'd just I'd ban it all, or I'd enforce the pre-existing bans. And if they continue to violate it, I would arrest the distributors. And I wouldn't just go after low-level guys. This is where I think people are being a little unfair to Andrew Tate. This is where I'm going to come in. I'm not exactly defending Andrew Tate here, but I'm pointing out it's fine to have righteous indignation about Andrew Tate doing all sorts of nasty, pimpy things and seducing women and putting them on webcam. It's awful. Small potatoes, guys, if you're against that, if you're for imprisoning Andrew Tate, then you should be 100 times, 1,000 times more in favor of imprisoning the head of MindGeek, which is the parent company of Pornhub. You should be 1,000 times in favor of imprisoning the owners of OnlyFans and all of the other porn sites. Okay, if you're going to go after the small potatoes because Andrew Tate is particularly obnoxious on video or something, he makes a good cartoon character villain, okay, fine. But go after the big guys. Don't just focus on little Andrew Tate. Go after the big guys. Otherwise, it seems that one is disingenuous or incoherent in one's view of this. Now, when you want to be coherent, when you want to be virile, when you want to be strong and energetic and satisfied with your meals, you got to check out Good Ranchers. Right now, go to goodranchers.com, use promo code Knowles. I adore Good Ranchers. I absolutely love it. Their food is absolutely fabulous. I eat it multiple times a week very often. The steaks are excellent. They've turned me into a ribeye guy. Their burgers are the absolute best burgers I've ever had in my life. They now have a pork box. That was my one complaint. I said I want some nice juicy brats or something, and then they did it. They did that right now. Good Ranchers is the only meat company locking in your price right now. They've got their industry-first price lock guarantee. Since 2021, they've been helping people combat the inflation of the meat aisle as well as the mystery of it too. Turns out over 85% of grass-fed beef is imported from overseas. So not only is store-bought meat expensive, it's of often low foreign quality also. Subscribe to Good Ranchers right now. Get that price lock guarantee. I don't know how they're doing it, especially with inflation, but it's just terrific. GoodRanchers.com. Use code Knowles for $30 off any box. Promo code Knowles, KNWLES at GoodRanchers.com. GoodRanchers.com. American meat delivered. You know, when Dr. Jordan B. Peterson made the decision to join DailyWire Plus, it was a major win for those who champion free speech and intellectual debate. With 1 year of unparalleled output, his contributions set new standards and remain unmatched by any other platform. DailyWire Plus now has a vast array of exclusive Jordan Peterson content, offering hundreds of hours of captivating content you won't find anywhere else. Jordan has created thought-provoking works that reshape your perspective on life, which include Vision and Destiny, Marriage and Dragons, Monsters and Men. Additionally, you can immerse yourself in discussions that nurture your spiritual side, such as Logos and Literacy, Jordan's new series on Exodus. I haven't even mentioned his Beyond Order lecture series or his extensive archive of lectures and podcasts. Plus, there is even more new exclusive content on the horizon. By becoming a DailyWire Plus member, you'll embark on an unforgettable experience that will fuel your thirst for knowledge and inspire personal growth like never before. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe to become a member today. My favorite comment yesterday is from Shazni, 1915, who says, Megan Rapinoe only represents herself, not our country. She will always be known as an anti-American player who missed the shot and everyone cheered. That's true. And it's not totally her fault, though. It's because she's a liberal. Because liberalism, it's not just Megan Rapinoe, it's not just the woke people, it's not just the extreme far left fringe, it's liberalism. Liberalism encourages individualism above all other considerations. Even people on the right will sometimes do that. Certainly the libertarians. It's the whole liberal ideology that has pervaded our entire civilization that says unchosen commitments, family, country, religion, community, all those, that's nothing. Forget about those. All that matters is your individual expression. That's the most important thing in the world. And you'll hear people on the right, not as often as people on the left, but you'll hear some people on the right say that too. The Rapinoe problem, oddly enough, is representative of an American political. That's the only way in which Megan Rapinoe does represent the United States. Okay, this brings me to our old pals at Harry's Razors. Harry's Razors has a new ad out. They're leaning in and promoting their razors for I think women are getting fed up with this birthing parent stuff, though. I think women are getting fed up with being kicked to the sidelines. I think women are getting fed up with feminism and the sexual revolution more broadly. Kelly Osbourne, Ozzy Osbourne's daughter, was just asked why there were no pictures of her when she was pregnant, and people asked if it was because she had a surrogate carry her child. And she's denying that. I don't know whether she did or not, but she's denying that she had a surrogate. She's saying, no, I hid. You won't find any pictures of me at all during pregnancy. I hid all 9 months of pregnancy to avoid being fat shamed. Because I've been a public figure all my life, and I just didn't want to be on camera fat. I don't know whether that explanation is true or not. It at least rings true. It at least rings plausible. Lindsay Lohan just came out. She said, being pregnant is the greatest joy of my life. Lindsay Lohan's had a pretty fun, wild life. She says, being pregnant, being a mother, it's the greatest joy of my entire life. Khloe Kardashian, do you remember that clip of Khloe Kardashian? Just coming out saying, man, surrogacy was a horrible idea. Wish I carried my child.
The surrogate process, Kim knows it's really hard for me.
Well, what does that mean?
She had a really hard time accepting the whole process.
Got it.
It's a mind that's really the weirdest
I
thing.
could see
I
that.
do think that there is a difference. When the baby is in your belly, the baby actually feels your real heart. Think about it.
Right.
It like touches your organ. Like there's no one else on this planet that will feel you from the inside like that, like your heart, you know?
I felt really guilty that like this woman just had my baby and I take the baby and then I go to another room and you're sort of separated. Like I felt it's such a transactional experience because it's not about him.
So true, you get the point.
I wish someone was honest about surrogacy.
I wish
and
someone
the difference of it, but
was
it doesn't mean
honest
it's
about surrogacy.
bad or good. It's still great. It's just very different.
I wish someone was honest about surrogacy. That's a great line. She says, there's this woman bleeding in the other room, and then I'm there, and it's not about the baby at all. It's just a transaction. It's an economic transaction. We've reduced the relation between men and women, one of the great joys of life, into an interchangeable commercial enterprise. Even the language we use, we talk about our partner now. We don't say my wife, my husband, my boyfriend, we say my partner. Like it's an accounting firm. And it's not just the men who are waking up to this, it's the women. The women who are saying, I don't want to be treated like a commodity, to be used up and thrown out when I'm no longer valuable to people. I don't want to buy my child. I don't want to be a nondescript, birthing parent. I'm a woman. I'm a woman. Hear me roar. This is why women are becoming more trad. There's this trend. I was a little early to the trend. We were doing this before it was cool, of trad wives and people looking at a more traditional kind of culture. You're seeing this among former liberals who recognize that liberalism's crazy. They're shifting to the right. And you're seeing this among people who would have called themselves libertarian, who are becoming actual conservatives now. Huge numbers of them, including prominent ones. And large numbers of non-prominent ones who usually have better intuition than the prominent ones. It's a recognition that it's a little weird in our culture that pregnancy is shamed, that being a woman, being a real woman, not just a pretend man, is shamed, that being normal is shamed. There's a recognition that at the very least, we're not saying anything about the wonderful achievements of progress, but we're just saying it's a little bit weird what's going on in this country. It's a little strange. It's a little strange that the First Lady's posing for photos with a bunch of It's a little odd, isn't it? And maybe we need to pull at that thread a little, figure out how did we get here? And as people are doing it, it's not just far-right conservatives, it's ordinary people, and it's a lot of ordinary women start pulling at that thread. They realize that we have to undo decades of error. C.S. Lewis made this point. He said, when you're walking down the road, the true progressive, because everyone wants to be a progressive now, the true progressive is the person who realizes when you're walking down the wrong road, you turn around first and you start going back the way you came. That's the true progressive, rather than keep going all the way to oblivion. The rest of the show continues. Now, you don't want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.